Well, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to join you in this amazing building. My first visit here, so really impressive to see what is flourishing here at Western Sydney University. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and a special acknowledgement to Professor Harleen Hayne and also to Professor Shamit Sagar. I'm going to make some observations about the challenges and the barriers to student equity. And firstly, I want to say congratulations to the Australian Centre for Student Equity and Success. Your work is really important, and as a legislator and a policy maker, I'm really keen to hear about the outcomes of your symposium, because you're doing a lot of work on the ground, and it's really incredibly important that your hard work reaches us in Canberra so that we can be on the front foot in addressing the challenges that you've identified through your hard work. I want to say that I think one of the big challenges starts in our schools. You can open the gateway to university, but if students aren't ready, if they haven't completed their studies, if they haven't been given the best opportunity at school, then they're not going to walk through your gateway. And I commend all universities for the amazing work that's being done with enabling courses. I think that's incredibly important work. And one of the issues, I think, with University Accord, it identified many problems, but it probably didn't identify or analyse enough about what universities are doing really well. And one of the things that universities are doing really well is providing those enabling courses. Some universities are better funded than others, and I think that does need to be addressed. But opening that gateway does mean providing your students with the best opportunity to succeed at university, and those enabling courses are incredibly important. But the Coalition is very concerned about the current situation at our schools across the board. We need to go back to basics, and that's because 1 in 3 students are failing NAPLAN. When you look at the PISA results, the Program for International Student Assessment, the average Year 10 student is 1 year behind his or her learning compared to 20 years ago. There's very big issues with teacher shortages, very big issues with classroom disruption. You would have seen more reporting perhaps of the fact that we have some of the most rowdiest classrooms of any country in the world. And of course, when you are disengaged in a disruptive environment, it's almost impossible to learn. I want to celebrate the schools that are doing amazing work to ensure that you get the funnel of students that you need. And there's the most inspirational school here in Western Sydney. It's the Marsden Road Public School, run by the incredible principal Manisha Kazula. And she started at the school 5 years ago and looked at the way the students were travelling, and it wasn't great. 90% of students were from non-English speaking backgrounds. Many students were from disadvantaged families, many refugee families. But she looked at how they were being taught, what they were being taught, and through the introduction of evidence-based teaching, explicit teaching, providing coaching for teachers, focusing on civics and citizenship, and teaching students about what to expect in the classroom and how to behave, she has revolutionised student outcomes, and now their NAPLAN results are soaring. She was put under a lot of pressure to embrace open classrooms. And she said to the New South Wales Department of Education, but they don't work. My children cannot learn in a barn of 200 kids. And so after quite a big battle with the department, I have to say and commend, has now embraced the fact that open classrooms don't work, and now in New South Wales, the New South Wales Department of Education has indicated that all classrooms should be the traditional classroom, which maximise the opportunity for students to engage and learn. So this issue with our schools is incredibly important to fix, and the Coalition is very focused on the need to mandate evidence-based teaching, explicit instruction, including through supporting our teachers who do an incredible job but arguably don't get enough support as a general rule. And so we really want to see that transformation happen in every school, as it's happened in Marsden Road and many other schools across New South Wales and across the country. Currently, there are 860,000 students who receive a Commonwealth supported place. The University Accord is suggesting that that figure needs to rise to 1.8 million students by 2050. So 55% of all students aged between 25 and 34 will receive a bachelor's degree. But this, as I say, is a challenge. You can open your gateway as wide as possible, but we need those students coming through your front door. Just want to make a couple of observations about some really positive developments in terms of giving students a voice. The National Student Ombudsman is an initiative that we have advocated for, and we're very pleased when the government came on board and supported that initiative. That was also a recommendation in the University Accord. We think that's incredibly important. There are many wonderful courses at universities, but when courses are not delivering, students need a voice, they need a place to go, including when courses are simply not delivering the opportunity to receive a refund for defective courses. So we're very, very pleased about that initiative. We recognise that equity for students means affordability, and we have a very significant loan scheme in this country which has enjoyed a lot of bipartisan support, but it depends, of course, on a low inflation environment to ensure it's affordable. And in the last couple of years we've seen HECS indexation rise astronomically. It was on track to increase by 16%. Student debt for 3 million Australians, 16% across the board, which was pretty alarming. That has now changed to around about 11% increase after the government has announced its changes to indexation. But students and workers across this country are still looking at an increase in their student debt of another 4% from the 1st of June, and these sorts of levels are not sustainable. So we are very concerned about affordability, coupled of course with the real challenges, the cost of living challenges so many students are facing, particularly in accessing affordable housing. And that's one of the reasons that we have in our budget reply not embraced precisely the government's approach, but certainly announced that we will be looking to cap international students in metropolitan areas of the country, because at the moment those students are placing an enormous pressure on the private rental market, which is not just affecting students but affecting everyone. And I think it is best evidenced at the University of Sydney, where 47% of all students are international students. 32,800 students are enrolled this semester, and that is placing enormous pressure on not just our immigration system, but of course on the housing situation in inner Sydney. So we will look forward to working with all universities on our policy announcements to make sure that we put in place policies which are equitable, which are fair, and which ensure that every university can thrive. And that's why we specifically made it very clear that that cap would not apply to regional universities. We recognise that the regions need a fair go, and that's one of the ways in which we believe the regions really need to be supported. I also just want to make a couple of comments about the importance for students to thrive in a safe environment on campus. This, of course, has been a very big issue in the context of the protests that are particularly an issue at the University of Sydney and Melbourne I do want to commend the Chancellor of Western Sydney University, Jennifer Westacott, who spoke out very strongly against anti-Semitism. You might have seen the coverage a couple of weeks ago. No matter someone's heritage or race or faith, we want to make sure that every single student is safe on a university campus, that there is zero tolerance for discrimination, harassment, intimidation and bullying. And so if that's happening to any student, no matter their background, we want to see university vice-chancellors really step up and make sure that campuses are a safe place for everyone. And I have to commend, certainly there were a number of university campuses which had some big problems, the likes of Deakin University, Monash University, which have really stepped up and said, drawn a line in the sand. We respect your right to protest. We respect the right of free speech, of free assembly. But when you cross the line into intimidation and discrimination and harassment, we will not tolerate that. So as I say, I hope that we see the University of Sydney and the University of Melbourne also stepping up and taking that same approach. I just want to also make a few observations in relation to the University Accord and the budget as announced by the government. The University Accord presents some very lofty ideas which will cost many billions of dollars. So for all of us, it's really important to work together to determine what are the priorities, what are the most important things to fund. We believe that we need equity right across this country, and that means ensuring that students in the outer suburbs and in the regions also get a fair go. And I absolutely commend this university for this incredible development here, which really opens an incredible gateway to young Australians living in Western Sydney. We were very proud to roll out our regional university centres to make sure that no matter where you lived in this country, you had an opportunity to study at a university. We are concerned that the biggest single cut in this year's budget, as just announced, is some $224 million for the Destination Australia program. That's a very important program that we introduced to encourage Australians to study in the regions, to ensure that our regional centres continue to thrive and our regional universities continue to thrive. So we were very, very disappointed to see that particular decision. There are a number of other challenges. We, of course, note the Australian Tertiary Education Commission is slated to start from the 1st of January next year, but there is no funding for any changes in course costs. I acknowledge there is some controversy about the Job Ready Graduates program, but I have to say the Coalition strongly made a decision to lower the cost of degrees, teaching, nursing, mathematics, linguistics, because we recognised that there is no fairness in students going to university if they don't end up with a job. And so that's a really important part of a tertiary education, is to make sure that it matters, that when students walk out of the university, they have a real pathway to a job and to a really strong future. And so while I acknowledge that the government has announced it intends to overturn the Job Ready Graduates program, I am concerned that without any additional funding to do so, that could mean higher costs for teaching, nursing and mathematics degrees. So I await further clarification from the government as to how it intends to continue to fund those low-cost degrees and also deliver its election commitment. In that note, you might want to watch estimates coming up in a couple of weeks' time. We have a couple of days of education estimates where we have the opportunity to dig down into the budget and ask lots of questions and find out a lot of information about the nitty-gritty that is not in the budget papers. So again, thank you so much for this opportunity to address you. Thank you for the work that you are doing. I'm really looking forward to hearing the outcomes of your symposium. Please make sure that we receive your good ideas, that we continue our two-way conversation, because a great idea means nothing unless it goes somewhere. So we want to make sure that your great ideas are heard in Canberra, and I look forward to continuing that journey. Thank you very much.